And welcome to Catholics Coast to Coast. I'm Ace McKay. Loving it when we get to just hang out. Podcast Central is where you'll find each and every one of these, and the conversation deepens as the summer rolls on. So you want to find more? Go to EWTN.com/podcast, or, of course, find the favorites and then subscribe wherever you stream so you don't miss future episodes. As we dive in this week, we've got a little bit of rebranding going on with our friends at Imperfect Living. They are now known as the Rosary Army podcast, and Greg is sharing a current mix of serious, spiritual, and simple readings that we can add to our summer reading list. So whether it's right before bed, first thing in the morning, you take this list with you for the summer, but check them out, the Rosary Army podcast, on this week's Catholics Coast to Coast.
Have you always been a reader, Jennifer?
No, absolutely not.
When did books become a thing for you? Because I've always been attracted to books.
Guys,
from the very beginning.
You don't understand. Date night for this man is literally going to a bookstore.
It always has been. That's
yes, I'm not kidding. Libraries are like destinations of choice for him.
When we move, that's one of the first things I do is go to the library.
Yeah, for sure. Check it out. See what kind of books are here, which is great. I mean, I have to give you credit. You've really opened up my eyes to the value of books, but I didn't have it initially. It definitely was not instilled during my high school years.
No.
But after high school, right into that young adult sort of phase of my life, 18, 19, 20, 21, for some reason, I thought it was cool to read books. And I was totally like being a poser. I was not authentic about this. I would go to the big bookstores and I was going straight to the classical section. I'm like, ooh, Voltaire. That sounds intriguing. I'll take it. Macbeth. Why not? I'll take it. I should probably do this.
Where were copies of Voltaire and Macbeth when we got married?
I don't know.
I would like to have had those come into our combined household.
And then
I've never read Voltaire.
Saw a display. I don't even remember it. I was like, this is way above my mental capacities right now.
See, now I'm going to add Voltaire to my list.
I'm not going to do it. And I don't even know if that's a good one. Like, honestly, I could not tell you a good classical book over someone I should read or someone I should avoid. I had no formation. That's really the key.
That's fair. I wonder what John Sr. would say.
Yeah, true, for real. Well, he would say, if it's not Russian, forget about it. Because that's how he speaks. This is John Sr.'s voice.
That's his Kansas accent.
If it ain't Russian,
if it's
forget
not
about
Russian, don't get it. That's what all people in Kansas sound like. Have you ever listened to the Saint Cast with Dr. Paul Camerata from years ago? This is exactly what he sounded like. Today on the Saint Cast. That's Paul Camerata. Spot on impersonation.
While at this bookstore, this is probably where I saw my first major marketing push display for Anne Rice's vampire novels. Remember Interview with the Vampire? I still remember the book cover was like gold. It was like gold paper and very like old language, like an old English font, Interview with a Vampire. And I thought, ooh, like, what is that about? Like, what is this? Okay, I'll take that too. Well, I quickly abandoned Voltaire and the Macbeth thing, although I really, really gave it a shot. I just wanted to see, could I do it? Could I read it? And I did, but I just didn't understand it.
Macbeth?
Yeah, all of that, And so then I went to Interview with the Vampire, and I was like totally hooked. I was the vampire young adult girl.
I'm literary now.
Yes. Anne Rice is the pinnacle of my literary. But again.
So when we did get married, you did bring a lot of Anne Rice and John Grisham books into our combined household.
Yes.
So one of the things we thought we'd talk about today is not only reading and apparently our history of reading, but what are we reading right now? And we thought we would just kind of share the books that are in process. And you made a comment a few weeks ago, wherever I sit, there's always a pile of books that looks a lot, if you're
dear
looking
listener.
This is a modest example. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I have adopted something that in the last few years, an attitude that has helped me discover a lot more, begin a lot more books, but not necessarily finish a lot more books. The thing that I've allowed myself is I've started to become comfortable with not finishing books. I used to have a thing where if I started it, I was going to finish it, for good or bad. I was going to pound through and finish that book. And I still have a little bit of that in me. Like Swiss Family Robinson, I started reading it a year or two ago. And listen, I know a lot of people love the movie. If you've ever read the book, it's an older book, and it almost became laughable. I think that they wanted it to be serious, and they were teaching lessons, but the father, the narrator in that book, he knew everything somehow. He was from Switzerland, and yet he knew about the migratory velocity of swallows carrying coconuts, Eastern and African, right? It didn't matter, or European or African. Sorry, if you know, you know.
Get the joke.
You get the paraphrasing of the quote that I'm doing right now.
If you're 50 or more, you get the joke.
You get the joke. But I have kind of allowed myself to, if there's a book that I have interest in, or a book that I've always kind of wanted to read, like for example, I've always had an interest in reading the book Walden by Henry David Thoreau. I think this seed got planted in my head probably way back in 1989, going and seeing Dead Poets Society, and Robin Williams throwing out like a single quote from Thoreau in that, and that's always been in my brain of like, I need to read Walden someday. And so I've seen copies of it over the years. In the last couple of years, I saw a copy of it. I said, I'm going to get it. I'm going to have it on my bookshelf so that when I'm ready to just look for something new to read, I'll grab it off of our bookshelf and start reading it.
How old were you when you got Walden on your radar?
So I would have been 19.
Okay. Do you also remember the books that you had to read when you were in high school,
Yes.
and if you enjoyed them?
Some I did, some I didn't. Some I really enjoyed. Glass Menagerie, which was a play, having to read that, I liked. I didn't particularly like The Scarlet Letter. I didn't particularly like The Red Badge of Courage. But there were other books like discovering E.E. Cummings poetry. That opened up my brain. I went through an E.E. Cummings. I don't even understand. I was going to the library, like not the school library, the regular library, and checking out books on E.E. Cummings.
Did you have to read Tale of Two Cities for high school?
No, I didn't. Romeo and Juliet we read, and that introduced me to Shakespeare, and I really liked it. I can't remember if I read Hamlet in high school, but I think I read that one on my own. I read a lot of books independently in high school. I mean,
I'm not surprised.
For me, summer, oh my goodness gracious, summer was always, I read so many books in the summertime. I have memories of like, if I wasn't flipping burgers at a fast food restaurant, I was going to the library, and if I got a book, you only had X amount of days to read it. So I'd be laying on my bed with the windows open and a fan blowing upstairs and just reading all summer long. And I loved it. That was what most of my summers in high school were like.
Well, see, I still remember some of these titles from our high school literature, classes. And that's actually I tried to buy them now in the last year or two, because I think it would land a lot differently reading it as an adult with a lot of life experience versus as a teenager with no life experience. And therefore, you just feel like you can't relate to some of these characters. So
Flowers for Algernon was, I'm going through it now.
I loved it then and I love it now.
I suddenly am feeling like Margaret DeGroat would be very disappointed in me if I don't start naming the titles. But that was in my 10th grade. That was Dr. Rochester. But Flowers for Algernon. There was a book, Alas Babylon. Remember Alas Babylon? It was like one of the first post-apocalyptic books that came out. And I think it was written in the 50s, but in the 80s it was starting to be assigned as high school reading. That was on my reading list for school. Now this is going to drive me nuts now.
Okay, in the last year I read Frankenstein because I had never read it.
I read that in college.
And I wanted to read it now just to see what all the fuss is over that book. And I knew that Joseph Pierce had an edition where he offered commentary through the Ignatius Press. So I thought, okay, there's a Catholic guy, well-known, and he had commentary. I want to read it. Lily now has to read that, and she's a senior. So it'd be interesting to see what she thinks of that book. But why do these books follow us around? I think it's a compelling question. Like, we just feel so drawn to owning them, reading them, but we're ultimately looking for something. And I think that we're looking for truth, something of the human condition.
What I was going to say is because I go through a rotation. And so what I proposed to you was that we share what's currently on our list right now. And I've always kind of had this attitude of having variety of book types because, when we were doing our radio show, we went for 4.5 years where we were interviewing what felt like an author every day. And we obviously couldn't read every book from cover to cover, but we were reading a lot of Catholic spiritual books that were just coming by fast and furious. And so during that period, I read very little fiction. I never got to enjoy just reading a story for the sake of reading a story. And so when we stopped doing interviews for many years, part of it was just because of the amount of work that goes into the preparation for an interview. It's not just having the guest on, but it's reading the books and trying to understand the content and how does it apply to our lives and all these kinds of things, which is all good. And I don't mind doing that, but I like reading. I like just the experience of reading. And so I think what I haven't formally, categorized this, but I think what I do now is I try to maintain a balance. You know how you have the food pyramid, right? Have your legumes and your protein and your meat and vegetables.
You have a book pyramid?
Well, kind of, I do.
And it's on the nightstand.
And I want serious, silly, and spiritual. And those are kind of the three categories, right? I want to be spiritually fed, so I'm always reading a spiritual book. I like I like books that are a little bit more serious. I like dramatic books. I don't read a lot of pop fiction anymore. I have, right? But every once in a while, I do feel like having some gummy bears, and so I will eat, some gummy bears. I will read some pop fiction, and I don't really like. I just finished reading a book called Dog Stars, which is going to be a movie. It was pretty light reading, I'm currently reading a book called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and that was because so I have to explain. I do get insomnia a few times a month where I wake up for whatever reason and I can't get back to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning. And that's where my Kindle comes to the rescue.
Can I just say one thing about that Kindle really quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Those married couples out there, and let's say one of you has a similar problem, cannot sleep, but you would like to read in bed, but you're worried about the light, possibly waking up your spouse or whatever. You cannot see the light coming off that Kindle. I don't know what setting you have it on. It is so
it's
crazy.
You haven't used your Kindle in a long time.
I have an old one, so it's pretty bright. Maybe.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, you have some amber light low setting that I have to walk up to you in the dark.
I do have it set to amber light.
And I have to really get within 2 feet of you, and then I go, oh, he's reading a Kindle. I could not see any glow. It is amazing. So I offer that little bit of service journalism to you for your marriage.
So
no lights.
I haven't bought a book for my Kindle in a long time because most libraries have systems that you can check out ebooks from the library. So our library uses something called Libby. And so I try not to have my iPhone in the room. And so on these nights where I have insomnia, sometimes I cheat and I'll go get the phone, and then I'll have it on the low setting, and I'll go on Libby and just try to find something that's available now, something that's rather light, because if it's 3:00 in the morning, I'm not going to read Voltaire. I want something, but actually I have
that might help put you to sleep.
I have started reading some serious books, but it's like I'm looking for something that's going to help me relax, right? And if I'm thinking too hard, sometimes that wakes me up.
Sure.
So I'm looking for something that's just easy read, easy story, easy the fallback. That's what I'm looking for, right? So, right. And so this book, this Dungeon Crawler Carl's been great for that. It's so easy to read. I'm just flipping through it. I'm not saying it's a good book. It's just really easy to read, and then I get tired really fast reading this. So this has been great for putting me to sleep. But it's a very popular book right now, and I kept seeing it for the last year at the bookstore, but I went on Libby, and I thought about Dungeon Crawler Carl, didn't think it was going to be available. It's a terrible title. I can't say it. And I looked it up, and it was available, and I downloaded it. And so I will have a book on my Kindle. I try to always have a book locked and loaded so I don't have to do what I just explained of going and getting my phone and finding something. I try to have something locked and loaded on my Kindle for when I can't sleep in the middle of the night. I can just, and so I don't disturb you. And when I go to bed at night, I put my reading glasses on top of the Kindle so that I can grab both of them together as one unit and start reading in the middle of the night. So that's one book I'm reading right now. That's a silly book that I'm reading, right? I also have comic books that I'll pull out and reread. I have collections of comic strips like Get Fuzzy and Pearls Before Swine and Calvin and Hobbes, and every once in a while I pull those out and I'll reread those. If I need a palate cleanser, if I've been doing a lot of heavy lifting reading, then I want a palate cleanser like that. But probably the thing that we read the most of is spiritual books now, Catholic books, trying to grow in our spirituality. But in the last few years, I've also started to read more books about growing older. And I like productivity books, but I've started to learn that productivity, just for the sake of getting more things done, isn't always beneficial. So I've found myself gravitating more towards books that talk about things like getting the right things done and finding the right type of balance. There's an author that I've really started to enjoy, Oliver Burkeman. I like a lot of his books. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book called 4,000 Weeks, Meditations for Mortals, The Antidote. These are all books that are more essays of thinking about just how you're living and how you're spending your time. Not that you try to maximize every minute of every single day, but actually trying to make sure that you're balancing that. So I highly recommend, if you want to pick up an Oliver Burkeman book, 4,000 Weeks, I just thought was a brilliant book. I've actually gone back and reread portions of it again.
And 4,000 weeks is basically the lifespan of a person.
That's a spoiler alert. He lays that out in the first chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. 4,000 weeks is basically how many weeks the average person has to live.
Okay.
And so along those lines, I've been reading this book lately by Arthur C. Brooks. Mac Maron from Catholic in a Small Town, he's a huge fan, and he was really annoyed when I told him that I heard about this book called From Strength to Strength from Arthur C. Brooks when I watched a video with Jeff Foxworthy of the You Might Be a Redneck fame. And Mac was like, I've told you about this guy like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, I don't think so. But Jeff Foxworthy of You Might Be a Redneck, he mentioned that this has helped him transition from being a best-selling stand-up comic to just an older guy. I'm like, I need that book. So, but Arthur C. Brooks, apparently he is a practicing Catholic. He's a convert to the faith, but it's not necessarily a Catholic book.
Sure.
But he mentions his Catholic faith. He works in Catholic sensibilities, other spiritualities as well. I mean, he mentions other spiritualities, but this has been an interesting book. Just the subtitle is Finding Success, Happiness, and Deep Purpose in the Second Half of Life, which is definitely, we are firmly ensconced within the second half of life. And so this is a book that I've been reading slowly, and I liberally
That's your morning coffee.
This is one of my morning coffee books, and I'll talk about another one here in a minute that I've been reading lately. But you seem to be either well-read mom or spiritual books, period.
That's all. I don't have any silly books in my repertoire. I'm just not drawn to that for whatever reason. I kind of feel my age, and I feel like I got a lot of catching up to do. I have not read anywhere near the volume of books perhaps that you have. And so at this point in my age, which is significant, okay, half a century plus more. So,
by the way, we mentioned that.
Yeah. It's old news.
She's
old news.
older than me now. It's awesome.
So I am just really wanting to crack this code with going as deep as I can with the Rosary. I want to know how I can really explore mental prayer in a big way and get so good at it that it becomes an effortless activity whenever I pray the Rosary, so that it's never about just the mechanics of the prayer, but I really do feel like I am like visiting a museum in my mind where I'm going to the exhibit of the Annunciation and I'm staring at all the details of that space. Who is in there and what does everything look like? And I am allowing myself to just be and to sit at the foot of that moment.
And let me jump in here for what you're describing right now, for the audience's sake. Mm-hmm. If you haven't watched the talks from Rosary Army's recent retreat, what Jennifer's talking about right now, she gave a wonderful talk and meditation on going deeply into meditating the Rosary using meditations like what you're talking about. It's totally worth the watch. That video's on our YouTube channel as well.
And so in order to build these visuals in my mind, I didn't want to just make everything up. I wanted to somehow base it on something that could potentially be as accurate as possible to the real moments that occurred in the life of Jesus and Mary. So for the longest time, I've had this 4-volume set on our home library called The Mystical City of God, written by Sister Mary of Agreda. And so she's like this nun out there in the 17th century. She died before St. Louis de Montfort was born. So they were in the very similar timeline. And she basically wrote the hidden life of Jesus and Mary as dictated from the Virgin Mary to her. And she was compelled by obedience to write it all. And at first she's like, no, I can't. There is no way I'm going to be able to write this. Who am I? I can't. It's too big. I'm not going to have the words. And so her attempts, she destroyed it. And her superior said, no, you have to. You have to do this. If the Blessed Virgin Mary, you need to do it. So she went back and she did it again. And she, this is what the 4-volume set actually comprised of. And it is an incredible read. Father Edward Looney, he actually did a Mystical City of God in a Year podcast based on this entire work. And
I was just on his show a couple months ago to talk about my book.
And so it's really, really beautiful, beautiful stuff. But then I realized, I'm sure all the details of what we now consider the 20 mysteries of the Rosary are probably in greater detail in that 4-volume set. But I didn't know how to go about finding them. There's not like a neat table of contents to sort of get me to the right book, the right chapter, the right blah, blah, blah. So I thought, let me just do a search to see if anybody else has taken this task. I mean, if Father Edward Looney did a podcast about it, I'm sure there are other priests out there who thought, oh, I'm going to do Meditations of the Rosary. And sure enough, there was. I mean, I found it instantly. So Catholic Way Publishing put out this book by Father Mark Higgins called The Holy Rosary with meditations through the visions of Venerable Mary of Agreda. And so this was exactly what I was looking for.
That's is it fair to say it's a summary of her meditations on the Rosary?
Only when it was needed. Part of the challenge for him was how to take such a large work and make it concise and doable for someone to pray a rosary, meditate on a paragraph, pray Hail Mary, meditate, because it would take a long time. And that's part of it, is that it does add time to your prayer.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing. You actually realize you start wanting the time. It's like, if you have a chance to go to a big museum, do you want to just breeze through? Well, I saw it, I went through it. Or do you want to linger? You could linger at a beautiful painting for 10 minutes, and that's a good thing. Let it communicate to you. And how much more important would it be to do this with the life of Jesus and Mary? So I thought I had to just give myself permission to not worry about time. So I decided to take this book with me to the Adoration Chapel, where now making a holy hour is easy. In fact, I can't finish in an hour. I'm usually there for 3 hours. So because I don't want to rush it, I just want to be there and realizing, okay, this is the better part. So I'm doing this. This book has been a game changer to me. I am not done with it, but I decided to make a kind of a cheat sheet to myself. So I am personally making summations of the priest's summations and explanations of the book so that I can train myself to get into mental prayer even faster and even faster. And eventually, when I have all my notes written, I'm going to then give you all my papers, Greg, and I'm going to say, please, will you put this into one of your nice, neat little
as long as it's
books?
Electronic. I don't have to retype it.
No, I'll type it.
So
it's already typed. And
along those lines, I mentioned this. One of the things that I've been doing for the last couple of years is, excuse me, in my journal, I have inserts that I've taught myself how to custom make these things. So I've been doing a lot of typesetting, and I've been using a typesetting program that book publishers use to actually start. I've known how to use this program in various forms over the years, but I'm really spending time making custom inserts. I made a custom insert of True Devotion, The Love of Eternal Wisdom. I made one that I used when I was writing my book. So I always had one in my journal, and I really like this size. But in the last, not even year, in the last 6 months maybe, I've started making these smaller field guide pocket versions that have 48 pages once they're all folded, and I just use these for just whatever notes, right? Just putting in whatever I'm thinking about, my to-do lists. If we're watching TV and I feel like doodling, I draw a picture. If I have a story idea, I start writing the story. I just don't worry about keeping it super formatted. But what I have started doing since our retreat, because I made custom inserts for all the retreatants, and I put in different prayers and different things, and now I already figured out the layout for typesetting certain things. I said, you know what? I'm just going to figure out how could I make custom books, pocket-sized books. So to the point of what I talked about of taking spiritual books and reading bits and pieces of it, but not having this completionist aspect, this perfectionist aspect of like, I have to finish everything I start. Because so many times, how many times do you pick up a spiritual book and just the first chapter can knock you off your socks? Just the first chapter alone can get you just going long way. So these fit perfectly. They're the size of a wallet. They fit in the back pocket of a pair of jeans.
Mm-hmm. See the difference? We're trying to compete with this device over
but
here.
But it would fit in a front pocket as well. It would get folded up and beat up, but that's fine. Yeah. But one of the things I've started playing with just in the last couple of weeks is I had this idea for what if I started making like a little, and this is for personal use. I don't know if I would do anything with it after this. But like I called it a Rosary Army Catholic reader. And so what if I had, and this is just a prototype that I was messing with. What if I had you open it up and here's the first beginning to Thomas A. Kempis's The Imitation of Christ, and then you flip the page and it's from Letters to the Friends of the Cross by St. Louis Marie de Montfort, and I've been messing with it even more. I'm like, well, what if I did, rather than bits and pieces of different things, what if I did volume 1 was all the first chapter of maybe 3 or 4 Catholic books. So I'm literally working right now on typesetting St. Augustine's Confessions, the first chapter. I started doing Genesis, and I was like, oh, wait, Genesis is 50 chapters. That's too big. That would take up a whole book. But I said, what if I made Genesis chapter 1? What if I made scripture versions of these and just had them so that I could grab one when I'm leaving the house?
Right.
And rather than looking at my phone, when I'm waiting in line or I'm waiting for you in the grocery store, I just take out one of these things. Mm-hmm. And I love that idea of just being able to have a custom, book of spirituality that I can have with me at any time. But I want to say, and this is the last thing that's on my list right now, that I've been reading, and this was given to me on our retreat from Robert. Robert, who attended, came down from Maryland. I think it was Maryland, right? Maryland?
Yeah.
And he had a book for you and a book for me. I'd never heard of this book, even though it's a Sophia Institute Press book, called I Believe in Love. It's a personal retreat based on the teaching of St. Therese of Lisieux. Story of a Soul. It's one of those books that's been on the bookshelf, never read it.
Same, never read it.
Aware of it, have some idea of her little way. I'd read little snippets of it. I'm like, it's like this young nun, no connection. I'm not feeling it. I just want to say, Robert, number one, thank you. I really have appreciated this book. I'm only 58 pages into it. But this is a personal retreat based on the teaching of St. Therese of Lisieux, written by a priest, Father Jean C.J. D'Albier. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I don't know when he wrote this. I think it was in the 60s, maybe. A lovely book. I've underlined the heck out of this, and it's been very comforting. It's about love. My book that came out in November, God Doesn't Hate Me After All, trying to accept and understand the love of eternal wisdom, to embrace the love of eternal wisdom and allow the love of eternal wisdom to embrace me. This book, I Believe in Love, has been a very, very nice, and though it's spiritual and it's serious, when I say silly, I don't mean silly like just stupid. I'm silly. I couldn't think of another S word. Simple.
Okay.
That's better.
That's good.
Rather than silly, I would say serious, spiritual, and simple. This book kind of hits all three of them, right? It's not silly.
Really?
It's an easy.
But there's a simplicity to it.
There's a simplicity to it. It's like I'm not having to think too hard. Which is interesting because I mentioned it to my therapist and he started reading it. He said he had to think too hard to read it. So I don't know.
That one?
Yeah.
Oh.
He anyway, I just called out my therapist.
Well, I have one book left.
Yeah.
That this is my version of your dungeon crawl crawler, whatever.
It's simple. Dungeon Crawler Carl.
This isn't necessarily simple, but if you like things like, Little House on the Prairie, going back to the old days of, being a teacher with like a whole schoolroom of children of all ages in one building. So like that's how schools were basically formed. It's just how they started. They couldn't have 15 kids in third grade. It was just, there's only 15 kids here, all different ages. Well, we're going to teach you all at once. So it forced the teacher to teach very differently in that light. So this is a book called Christy by Catherine Marshall. It's based on her experiences or her grandmother's experiences as being this teacher in Appalachia and Tennessee.
And what year do you remember?
I really don't. So I can't tell you quickly offhand, but I want to say 1800s, late 1800s, something like that. But I tend to read it only at night when I'm ready to fall asleep. And so it's kind of not fair to this book because it really is a good book. And in fact, there was a TV show called Christy.
A series of movies
Yeah,
or something.
series of movies. So it's like I'm really, really, really enjoying it. But for some reason, I can't bring myself to read it during the day.
Weren't you reading the audiobook too, though?
Yeah, and that helps me push through the content a lot faster. I love Audible for that. However, it is...
And Kelly Martin, who played Christy on the TV show, she narrates the book, right?
Exactly.
See, I think I would actually listen to it. I've always kind of liked her.
It's super fun. Great nuggets of like how to be a good teacher, how to love children that you don't understand when you look at them because you want to judge them, and you want to... Basically, it's just how to love through all the imperfection of humanity. So there are great, great, great lessons in here. And so I am looking forward to getting through this book, but I'm going at a very slow pace because it's like literally 2 pages a night.
But I think that's fine. I mean, that's part of life, right? We're busy. We're doing a lot of different things. But I think that having a book, even if you're reading it just 2 pages a day, that's simple, that is spiritual, that is serious, whatever category it hits. I love the fact that that's something that you and I have grown throughout our marriage, a shared appreciation, and our styles of the things that we read have changed. We go back and forth, but it gives us an infinite, source of topics to talk about.
That's true.
It gives us an infinite source of things that entertain us, and it's something that I hope and pray that our children will, or some of our children at least, will someday look back on, and if they find themselves as adults being drawn to bookstores, that they'll remember, oh yeah, this is what mom and dad always did. And then so anyway, that's it. That's all we got. We just want to share what we're reading right now. We hope that you enjoyed that conversation. If we can help you growing in your spirituality in particular, and silliness too, because we do some of that from time to time. You can find us over at rosaryarmy.com if you'd like a rosary, or if you'd like to pray along with us. You can find lots of great resources there. You can also join our community, schoolofmary.com. And if you'd like to support the work that we do, schoolofmary.com, you can make a tax-deductible donation today. And as always, thank you for hanging out with us, and make them,
pray them,
and give them away. God bless, folks.
Adding to your summer reading while deepening your walk with God. Great stuff from the Rosary Army podcast. Easy to find. Go to EWTN.com/podcast or subscribe to the Rosary Army podcast wherever you stream so you can play catch up this summer. I am Ace McKay. When Catholics Coast to Coast returns, Honest to God is helping us to reflect on what it truly means to be a Catholic woman rooted in Christ, inspired by Our Lady, and also called to grow in faith, virtue, and authentic femininity. You want to find out more about it? Join me for Honest to God coming up on Catholics Coast to Coast.
Another great podcast on EWTN Podcast Central is Just a Guy in the Pew. We're talking Catholic man to Catholic man. No fancy jargon, just real honest conversations from the heart as John and Victor discuss the struggles, challenges, and unimaginable joy of following Christ. You can hear this and other faith-filled podcasts at EWTN Podcast Central. Visit EWTN.com/radio and click on Podcast Central today.
AM 1160 The Quest presents Honest to God. What's on your mind? A show for young adults by young adults.
Welcome back. You're listening to Honest to God on AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic radio. You might have heard of Nights Around the Table, but this is the women's segment called Mary's Garden, so welcome in. Before we get into everything, I think it would be best for us to start in a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. Come, Lord Jesus. Spirit, we ask that you come into our conversation, that you may take reign, that you may allow us to say whatever it is that you need us to say, and to allow our listeners to hear whatever it is that their heart needs today. We ask this all in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. I am Zykeria, and I'm joined here by Alyssa.
Hi.
And Autumn.
Hello.
And then we have our awesome producer, Madeline.
Hello.
Great. Amazing. This is actually our first episode in this studio ever. So we wanted to give a big shout out and a big thank you to our donors for your generosity. We would not be able to do this at all without you guys. So thank you to our donors. Cheers for our donors. Today, Mary's Garden, we want to talk about Catholic women. What is a Catholic woman? And really our objective for today is to explore Catholic femininity in today's world and really just try and get at the heart of what is a woman. I think when we look at what today's world looks like, there's a lot of different perspectives and things that are happening, specifically with femininity and specifically with women. And I think that the main reason for that is because the devil hates women. And it is very evident in our world that at every time period, you'll see some kind of attack on women, some kind of attack on femininity. And even when I look at the beginning of time, like a woman, Our Lady, our Blessed Mother, was integral in God's salvific plan. So obviously the devil was like, absolutely not. He does not like this. He wants to attack this. And so I think, this is just manifested in different ways. How have you guys seen this manifest in today's world?
I think a lot of it is like confusion. Like there's just so much confusion. Like what does it mean to be a woman? And a lot of it like falls under like stereotypes. So we see, a lot of it with people saying that they are a woman when they're biologically not a woman, and then they just fall into these like stereotypes of what a woman is because they don't know what it is to be a woman, and like those essences and the gifts that we were given by God that make us uniquely female. And then I think also just like this wave that we saw really hit in like the 1960s where like women were kind of, due to like the birth control, there was like this mentality of like, okay, now you can be just like a man, and now we're going to be just like a man, and to be a real woman you need to like be better than a man. And then that caused like a lot of things that made us unique and special to be kind of pushed down or wanting to like not like uplift, like now we were the thing that made us so special, which was like being able to bear children or having that maternal heart, that spiritual maternity. Even like if you aren't able to bear children, that's like considered like, oh, now that's like a burden on your life and it's just going to make everything worse, and you need to go out there and like like I don't know, like beat the man. There's just like a lot of like men versus women mentality that I think causes a lot of confusion, and then there's just people lost,
Yeah, I think that is a great word to describe it, as confusion. Not only like within the world and ideals that people are putting out, but even within like ourselves, that confusion of, well, if the world is telling me that to be a woman is to do this, this, and this, and I'm being criticized for having children or all of these things that should be celebrated, then it's like you're stuck in this like in between of, well, what does being a Catholic woman mean for me? And like trying to combat that. What about you, Alyssa?
I think it's just identity. The same thing of what Autumn said. Sometimes we forget like who we are, how to present ourselves. And I feel like for me, it's hard because sometimes I'm like, am I a woman? I am. Biologically. But like, am I? Yeah, I am. And so those questions, like going back and forth of, sometimes we get lost in the idea of just, we are women and we are a daughter of Christ, and what does that look like? It's being his, and understanding like, sometimes our perspective from the world kind of makes it seem like we're not his at all, especially like as a woman or as his daughter. And at the same time, our relationships reflect that as well. It's just like, you have to be independent. You don't need a man to do anything at all. Yeah. But as well as knowing, your worth. It's just a lot of people thinking your worth is being independent. I think the correlation to that.
Yeah, this notion of self-sufficiency, I think, has been promoted as like this new form of what feminism is, where it was this idea of liberation and women being uplifted and affirmed for who they are. And now what you're saying is like this shift to what you can do, and not only what you can do, but what you can do completely by yourself. And you don't need anyone else, which is not only not normal for women, but that's not normal for anyone.
Because I feel like we need to live in correlation. Like, we're not meant to be a man. We're meant to be a woman, but we're supposed to live in harmony. And so
we need men. We need men in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, kind of going off of what you're saying is, like, there's a confusion of what it is to be a man. And that caused women to, like, the idea of, like, oh, a man has so much freedom. Like, he can do whatever he wants. And therefore, like, to be the best woman I can be, I need to have those exact same freedoms. And therefore, it was like, oh, we're just going to throw out our fertility. Like, our fertility is what makes us weak, almost. Instead of literally, like, the church is showing how Mary's fertility was the salvation of our world. Like, and I think a lot of the times, especially today, like, there's so many videos of, like, women talking about how they regret being moms and, like, how it's just terrible to be a mom. And, like, there was this Cut article from a few weeks ago that was literally talking about, like, why women regret being mothers and you shouldn't be a mom. And it was just terrible. And it's just, like, this is common. Like, this is just, like, in our culture now, to the point where when you become a mother, it's almost like, why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Yeah. And I think you have to find a balance, too, because there's an affirmation of being a mother. Granted, I'm not a mother. You are a mother. You will know this. Being a mother is hard, and it is difficult. But then being able to see the joy within that, and I think that's with any vocation, any gift that makes us women, is that there are parts of it that are like, okay, this part is particularly difficult, and this part is really hard. But can I, through the eyes of the Lord, see the joy and the glory and the grace that will come forth from those things? And it's like, you're kind of caught in that balance, and you have to find like the middle ground, not of like, I completely hate this and I despise this, or like you need to have 50 children, or you're like not living this out. It's like finding that integration of true Catholic femininity, and not even just for Catholic women, just for women in general. I'm curious, Madeline, if you've noticed any trends in the world that you feel like emphasize this point of this attack on women and this attack on femininity.
Well, I was thinking about, like, while y'all were talking, I feel like it's the role models. Well, at least growing up for me, I didn't have a lot of them. I had my mom, but I was like, I guess the best example would be like cradle Catholic. So it's like I went to church on Sundays, I went to Sunday school, I received all the sacraments, and I was like, I knew enough of my faith to, if people ask questions, I could answer their questions. But I grew up in the Bible Belt, so it's like I was one of two Catholics in my graduating class, and the other Catholic was a guy. Yeah. And so I feel like the biggest thing is just like role models aren't there as much, or as prevalent as they should be, or talked about as much. Okay, this is also, you can stop me from going on a rant.
No, please keep going.
I've noticed, at least in today's society, like the younger generation, because I feel like our generation, there's been a, what's the right word? More of like a, like when numbers go up or whatever, what's the
a rise, an
I
increase?
guess, yeah, an increase in like influx. Yeah, basically, in like young adults coming back to the church, and especially women, like choosing who they are and like really diving into their femininity.
Yeah.
But I've noticed with the younger generation, like Gen Alpha, and even like the lower end of Gen Z. I've seen mostly just in mass and church, but it's like their respect for the faith is just not there. So I just feel like the teachings just aren't happening. Okay, hold on. I feel like I'm going off topic here, but to bring it
She's
back,
like, skirt neck.
bring it back,
Roll it back.
like I think for girls, young girls growing up, and especially like on the cusp of being women, I feel like, I guess long story short, I just haven't noticed a lot of role models or leads or like people trying to make sure they have a good example.
Yeah.
If that made any sense.
No, that
I know.
makes
Okay, I know what you're talking about, because like there's almost like when a girl says like, oh, like when you have those questions, it's like, how am I different than a boy? Because that just naturally happens, you know. You're like, how am I different than like my brother Jimmy? I don't know. And like the response isn't like, okay, let's talk about what makes you uniquely feminine and like the traits that make women, like the gifts that are uniquely given to women that make them special in the eyes of God and all this stuff. It's more like, oh, you're just as good as Jimmy. You're just a girl. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like also another thing could be like the content that is out there gets hidden. So there could be really good resources out there, which I know we'll dive into in a little bit. But like JP2's Letter to Women, beautifully written, a lot of good stuff in there, and talks about the feminine genius, which we'll go into more later. But there's stuff like that are out there. Like I know there's like Sister Miriam and Cameron Fratt.
Yeah, and Blessed is She.
Yes, exactly. And so, and I know there's great podcasts, there's great documentaries, but I feel like they're hidden, or they're just like not like broadcasted as well as they could be.
At least not to the younger generation. Like I discovered all of those lovely women when I was like in the early years of my college career. So like, yeah, I was like 19, 20 when I was like, oh my gosh, Cameron Fratt, I love her.
Yeah, fantastic lady.
Well, I also feel like
she's great.
It's like, I'm pretty sure people just want to be the same as everyone and just want to relate to certain things because, oh, have you seen that meme, or have you heard of this trend, or the celebrities as well. And
I feel like those are definitely the most influential people in our culture, for not only for young people but like older people as well. Like that's who, like, we had these people that we looked up to, whether that was like a mom or a sister or whatever that looked like for us. Like I loved Michelle Obama when I was younger, and then she introduced the like whole grain wheat food in public schools, and I was so mad. I was like, no longer my role model. But like we had like these people that actually are like super classy people and like that we look up to, but then now it's like who they look up to is just like who's popular, or like the pop artists. Like, and I'm not trying to like dog on like pop music, but it's like, is that really like, when you are looking at someone that you want to like imitate in their virtue, like are those really people that we want to imitate? Even myself, like if I look at my playlist of people that I listen to, I'm like, are these people that I want to be like? Not really, but that's who's driving like the influence in the world. Do you guys feel the same way, similar, disagree?
Oh yeah.
No, yeah.
You're like, no,
well, yeah. I mean, like the sadly, it's just not like, you're not gonna have like, we don't have like a super popular Catholic pop star girlie who's like, we're all like, yes, you know. Like it's just, we just don't, you know. They're more, which, you know, makes sense. Satan doesn't want that to happen.
Yeah. But I also feel like there are artists where they have good intentions, but I think it's also like, find the artists that have good intentions, the words that they display, what lyrics are you listening to, and like what are your intentions? Why are you listening to them? And like what are you listening to?
Yeah, and I think what we consume definitely affects us a lot. And even like, I mean, as we were talking about like music and media, like if you think about the way that women have been portrayed in the media, whether that's through music, the way that people sing about them, like, I mean, I know some artists who write beautiful, beautiful love songs that are just like amazing, like uplifting. You just like want to go and fall in love and stay in love. But then I've heard a lot of songs by men and by women that just completely degrade women. You see this happening in movies and TV shows and on Instagram, like it's like widespread. How have you guys experienced that in the media?
Well, I mean, like, Sabrina Carpenter is like one of the most popular pop artists right now. And listen, I'm not gonna lie, like I listen to her in the car and it's a bop. Like I'm out here. It's a bop. Yeah, because I'm a singer. Yeah, but like at the same time, yeah, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm literally like, okay, I gotta stop listening to her at some point because literally my daughter is gonna start repeating those words, and I'm like,
I also feel like
happening.
Like on with Sabrina Carpenter, her branding, the way she presents herself is very sensual. And it's like, and like the outfits she wears to her concerts.
Well, she literally wears lingerie.
Yeah.
Now it's like vintage lingerie, so it's like
yeah, I know.
Classier. A little classier than the lingerie we see today.
Give us Maya Hart back. Please. What did you do to her?
Okay. Sorry, I was slow.
Yeah. Thumbs. Y'all remember? And they keep on twiddling them. Bro, when I was in 8th grade, me and my best friend, we would play that song over and over again. And I got to a point, I'd put it on and she'd be like, this one again.
That is so on brand. That's so funny. Yeah, I feel like that is, I definitely think, and like if teens and young adults and some like people who are like our age and adults like are looking to that as like that is what the ideal is and that's what's getting praised, so then it's like okay.
I mean, like I remember watching videos of like girls being like, what I'm wearing to the Sabrina Carpenter concert, and it's literally like lingerie. Like some of it was like less than what she's wearing on stage, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so it's like sex sells. So it makes, like, sex sells. Like, literally, she, like, shifted her brand to being this, like, lingerie, girly girl, and, like, everyone ate it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just went with it,
Yeah.
Because that's what sells. And, like, she's beautiful, and she's wearing, like, these glittery little outfits, and it's showing off her beautiful form. And I think this is where we see, like, the vice of what is good and true and beautiful. Because, like, it's not that her body is wrong. It's not that a naked form is wrong. Because if you go to a museum and you're seeing these beautiful works of art of naked women, that's not immodest. That's not, like, perverse, because it's done showing, like, the good beauty of the woman's and the female form. And so there's, like, goodness there. Like, she is a beautiful woman. And so our brains are like, wow, I love looking at this beautiful woman. Mm-hmm. But then the vice comes in where it's like, okay, but we're objectifying her in the lyrics, in the dances, in, like, the skimpy attire. Like, that's also being presented here. So it's not just to, like, uplift this beauty. It's also to objectify and pull apart and, like, use for our own pleasure and gain.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't mean to be dramatic at all, but, like, that is the work of Satan. Like, he wants to take what is good, what is beautiful, what is true,
and then twist it.
Like, twist it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is exactly what is happening there. Because, like you're saying, like, it's not, like, her body is not a bad thing. She's a beautiful woman. She has a beautiful voice. She makes very catchy songs, even though some of them are very inappropriate, but they're very catchy. Yeah. But it's like, she obviously has some kind of talent there. She's a great performer, but it's like that goodness being twisted and used is like, it always just blows my mind. It's like very plain and clear, like, in our faces, but then also still hidden behind this veil that we just, like, don't see. It's just insane. How have you seen that in the media, Alyssa? I wanted to give you space.
Oh wow, you're so kind.
What it truly means to be a Catholic woman. More on this conversation is easy to find. Honest to God is at Podcast Central when you go to EWTN.com/podcast. And then, of course, subscribe wherever you stream. That way you can catch every episode. I'm Ace McKay. Going to bow out. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Remember to let God define who you are. And I'll see you again with Catholics Coast to Coast.